when we talk about regulation, right? When people hear regulation, a lot of times they think government, right? And so if we're
Yep.
talking about a space that's decentralized, it's like, how do you balance those two things, right? Because even in America, we feel it feels like SEC is involved. They're going to figure out a way to tax this. They're going to figure out a way to put their hands on it. We can see the large financial firms getting involved. But then we talk to people overseas, and it's a whole different conversation. And you can feel the use case is there, right? They
Mhm.
understand like this could be the global currency. How are you navigating that?
Yeah, well, look, I think that, one of the, like, specifically like with Bitcoin, like it has an opportunity, to present a viable alternative outcome that actually can address, situations like inflation, which is a huge issue which we're dealing with right now. And so rather than just saying, oh, okay, well, if the U.S. economies continue to inflate, then I'm going to take my money and move it to euros or move it to dollar, or move it to yen or other international currencies. You have an opportunity now with crypto to be a strong alternative asset, and an option that is accessible to anyone. I mean, the one thing about Web3, which and how we're seeing the world, which makes it so interesting, is that anybody can have opportunities just to create a Coinbase account, or create a MetaMask account, or download or build a ledger, and now connect into this ecosystem where it's open access and open opportunities. And so for us, we want to make sure, one, on the regulatory side, to kind of continue to not only educate but inform how the viewpoints and where the industry is going, and allow people to understand that there's actually more benefits towards having Web3 and having crypto, and having not just looking at NFTs as securities, but real assets that can actually, that anybody across any industry, whether it's putting your home, and instead of selling it through a Compass, you could actually, or a traditional real estate website, now you can turn that into an NFT. Now you can actually find and have the ownership layers go across time. And so for us, like, we want to make sure to emphasize the benefits of the industry, while also educating, because there's always these mysticisms, and, oh, this is going to be bad, or, oh, I'll lose all my money, or this is a scam. And that's that. And that's true across every single industry. But for us, and how we see the future of the space, we really want to make sure, to provide, even level playing field in terms of the information, but even more so, like, not over promising and under delivering, but creating a source of truth, where bad actors need to be punished. And also, let's continue to keep pushing the industry forward. I think that and like I said at the very beginning, like, we're at a very interesting state where, for the first time, you get a chance to be in the middle of a transition of going from a centralized ecosystem to now also having a decentralized, opportunity as well too. And that's what gets us fired up.
On the investment side, as far as your team, how long are you guys looking to hold Bitcoin as an investment? And a follow up to that is, when you first start working at Andreessen, for those who aspire to work for a venture capital firm like Andreessen, how did you
Mhm.
make your way in?
Well, I'll start off on the latter piece, because I think that that's also, an important thing just to kind of break down. And for me, I actually originally started off in the music industry. I was a music producer and engineer. I got a chance to start my career actually at Jermaine Dupri's studio at Southside Studios with, and so shout out to him and the whole So Def alumni. Uh, and so that was the first part. And then from there, I always loved this intersection of what I like to call like tech, culture and innovation. And so, I was in high school, I was the first kid that had the Sidekick, or when it came to having, mobile ringtones. And so always had this idea around ways in which we could kind of build the future of technology, but also kind of keep it cool at the same time. And so that ended up, once the first iPhone came out, I saw that as a breakthrough technology where anybody could actually take their ideas and their thoughts and turn them into a thing. And so I got super inspired, ended up teaching myself how to code, and moved out to Silicon Valley, where I started working on my startup, which was a restaurant technology application, so that any restaurant, regardless of their background, could have their menus on smartphones and tablets with high quality photos of each individual dish. And so when I was out there, that's when I understood the network. And got a chance to meet great people, like including Ben Horowitz, including Felicia, including the whole A16Z team, and more so understand how the real game worked. And one thing I would always inspire anybody that wants to get into technologies or whether get into venture capital is actually just to start figuring out ways in which you can start off, building on a small scale. So back then you had to move to Silicon Valley in order to actually get into the ecosystem. Here now you have ecosystems in New York, in Austin, Texas, and down here in Miami, and all around the world. And even more so, if you have a great post or you have good insights and you post them on Twitter, or you post them on other social networks or even Instagram, where what you guys are doing is you're creating the information and actually putting yourself as your own individual thought leader. And so I think that the first thing is really understanding the ecosystem. A lot of people want to immediately think that, I can go start a startup and go right back into the space. But really, what I've seen is often most successful is kind of jump starting and maybe working at a company, whether it's a early stage startup or a company that has raised like a Series B or Series C round, where now you can get into the game and start to understand how the world works. Because you can't just come in and just say, okay, I'm going to be in venture. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but it's an extremely hard industry. And when it comes to the returns, only we kind of call adverse selection, where the best entrepreneurs are going to work with the best venture capitalists, second best entrepreneurs, second venture capitalists, and it kind of goes down the tier from there. So you want to always try to position yourself to be the best. And so even if you do want to start your own fund, I always think about this idea, which we kind of call the idea maze, which is how has your entire life got you to your career, to this point in your career where better than anybody else about this specific industry. And so for me, because I started off in the music industry, because I started a startup, and then having a chance to work at Andreessen as chief of staff, I got a chance to see kind of the lay of the land and how the VC industry worked, and then said, okay, well, based off of where there's potential holes in the market and where there's opportunity, that's when I founded the Cultural Leadership Fund, where I brought the world's greatest athletes, entertainers, musicians, executives, all under one investment vehicle. And with me being the only brother in the room, I thought it was also important to make sure that we could, knowing that the next generation of wealth is happening within the technology industry and more of us need to have a seat at that table, wanted to make sure to create the first fund in the history of Silicon Valley to have 100% Black LPs, so that now we could have this idea called shared genius, where founders might be geniuses at what they're building, the next Mark Zuckerberg, the next you name it, but then also getting a chance to work with the greatest cultural leaders who equally have insights in terms of not only how they can help improve the product or have, okay, what if you added this into the business behind the scenes, but also helping it scale and getting a chance to have access at the earliest stages too. So, you're not just getting access to the Snap investment one round before the IPO, or investing into Coinbase once it goes public, but having that chance to really build and grow with the businesses. Because you think about the Serena Williams of the world, the Kevin Durant's, and to one degree they might be athletes and superstar athletes, but really they're entrepreneurs and they're business people, and they think about the world differently, and having all these different touch points and getting that opportunity to really kind of connect across both worlds and lead with influence and have that shared genius. I think that's something that I saw was extremely valuable. And that was in 2015, 2016. If you fast forward to today, so many people have created their own funds. We're having conversations like this, and it's not just, shelved into the technology section, but these are mainstream conversations that we're having on a day-to-day basis. And so, the first step is just, leaning in, and you can read about the spaces, you can write blog posts, but the beauty of this is that it's an open playing field and you can get in whenever you want.
This that Red Panda Anthem. Ian, what's up? This that Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good? Red Panda Anthem. Whole foot going up. I know they can't stand it.